when I left Amazon, I was really, really curious about Amazon as a company. I believed in Amazon, I believed in the leadership principles and the foundation it started as. But the more I pulled it apart, and then when I migrated across to the Airbnb business, I realized that there were some similarities between large corporations like an Amazon or an Airbnb and really small businesses. And that's the foundation of who they are as a company. Amazon has 1.6 million people that are all aligned to the direction that the company goes. Now, can you imagine whether you're 10 people, 2 people, 200 people, if you can get all your team heading in the same direction? Airbnb calls their principles filters, and so does Apple. At Amazon, they are called principles, and Amazon has 14 leadership principles, and they keep every employee back to the track of where they should be heading. So as a business, and we are in the service business, if you think about what we do, but think about it from another great book of unreasonable hospitality. When they want to take 11 Madison Park all the way across to be the #1 restaurant in the world. And it's not about the food has to be great. It's not about the service, it has to be 5-star service, but they had the foundation of who they really wanted to be. And from that, they made the show The Bear, etc. But these principles are critical. So what I did was actually started pressure testing them against other brands. So if you think of Starbucks for a second, now Starbucks failed in Australia because we are very pretentious about our coffee, and Starbucks is not great coffee. But the foundations of Starbucks truly is about that third place. That place between home and office where you meet friends. And Starbucks has really strong foundations, and they're actually trying to go back towards them now. Their principles are incredibly strong, and they are a service industry, right? How decisions get made when leaders are not in the room, and their principles are iconic to the way they do it. Experiences over the product, because we know it's not great coffee. Premium in the everyday, so we're not going to luxe, we're in the upper premium every day, and making sure those moments are held. And the characteristics, we all know the characteristics of Starbucks. How you show up every day. It's warm, it's familiar, and it's part of who you are. So with your company or with your clients, how are we holding true to who you are, and what's that one thread that comes through? Amazon, as I said, 1.6 million people. They're not a tech company. They're not a retailer. They are into innovation, but they do innovation for customer experience, and that's all they are. They're one big customer experience company. One of my mentors when I was in Seattle was a guy called Tom, and Tom was employee number 5 at Amazon. He has one of the best wine cellars I've ever seen, and I think he's in Burgundy at the moment, tasting wine. He's a curmudgeon, but that's okay. I can live with that. But he tells the stories of how the Amazon principles really formulated about customer experience, and how Amazon invented one-click shopping because it made the customer experience even better. How they made pre-fill credit cards, a 2-hour delivery. That's part of Amazon, is diving forward to their customer experience. And how can you as an individual company really own that area? Switching my mind to the client side, so I've served both agencies and clients, is the one thing on my mind at the moment is not AI. If anyone comes in talking about AI at the moment, they are out the door very, very quickly. It's not talking about headcount, it's not talking about people. The biggest fear that we have as a company is what's happening in the long term. The long-term effect is what we're really concerned about. We did a campaign 6 months ago, and we needed 2,500 assets. Anyone can pump those out with Adobe now, with Gen Studio or Adobe Express. That's the easy part of the business, and there's no money in that part of the business. Where we struggle is that long-term. How are we going to hold on to the brand long-term? So whether it's a media or a strategy or a creative or a content, the biggest fear that we have as CMOs, I was actually in a CMO conference in February, was what is that thing that's going to keep the brand together for the long term? The short term is easy, it's the long term that we're all worried about. Is our media showing up at the right destination? Is it showing up in the right places? Are we part of the company we keep? So it's not necessarily the content, it's just keeping the brand alive. And that's the one thing you'll find most CMOs are truly worried about.